Hi. After some technical difficulties, I am back. Technical as in my laptop slipped out of my hand and broke. Literally. It's okay though, everything's taken care of. Now, as I promised, the next book I'm going to do a sample reading from is from BloodHunt Alpha and Omega. It's book 2. This is the one I had great fun writing because I got my great-great-granddaughter into a bit of a pickle. She got out of it in her own unique way, but she got out of it. We're going to do the prologue, which could be basically almost a chapter in itself. And it's an excerpt from Captain Michael Yamoto's journal. Not the personal one, the one that they all do when they're going to go out in the field. He's a little bit more military about things than Kai is. It's now the year 2105 in free America, and First Lieutenant Kayla Day McMahon has her hands full with a monster hunt, which is proving to be a bit more complex than she anticipated. Now, with her partner, Michael, off on a tricky extrication assignment, it's up to her and her platoon to carry out the mission to completion. Commander Tillman is concerned Kai may be in peril when she and her platoon mysteriously vanishes. Dr. Tama worries that there are going to be more than just a few scuts and scrapes to be tended to after it's all over with. Well, as for Kai's platoon, well, they know their fearless leader will get the job done, no matter what. But does it really require setting the entire national forest ablaze? And the big question is, how fast can Kai run? Prologue. Date, 2105, June 4, Monday. Time, 1500 hours Eastern. Location, Point Pleasant, West Virginia, Lazy Dog Motel and Campground. I had just arrived back at FAC headquarters in Chicago, Illinois, in the pre-dawn hours of May 31st, exhausted and in need of a debriefing over an tricky extrication mission I had just wrapped up, only to be hastily called into a crowded and chaotic ready-away room. Once seated, I was confronted with the disturbing news that my partner, First Lieutenant Kayla Day Ann McMahon, had been reported as missing, along with her entire platoon of 60 strong. Apparently, no one had thought to contact me that she had gone on an emergency monster hunt, but it seems the first lieutenant told them not to, that the extrication I was on took precedence and they shouldn't worry me about it. How I managed to not start swearing in several different languages at that bit of news is a miracle. Corporal Tilson, the reporting officer, had indicated the platoon had deliberately gone dark 6 days previous to the emergency meeting. But it was his humble opinion at that time that they may have accidentally missed the mandatory 5 days check-in time, so had given them one more day before following the protocol of reporting a missing member or team. When I learned just what Kai and her platoon had gone after, and having seen the only photo she had shared in the initial debriefing of the beast, I grew deeply concerned. Initially, Commander Tillman did not want me to head the potential rescue operation, but Dr. Tama disagreed and reminded him that the first lieutenant and I are bonded. If anyone could find her and the platoon, it would be me. I am pleased to report my rescue away team assembled with military precision, and it was quite gratifying to see how many more FAC soldiers volunteered for the rescue mission. It seems my too damn skinny, for her own good, highly aggravating, rules-breaking partner has made numerous friends in the past 2 years, and none of them wanted to sit idly by if indeed she were in grave danger. I have become somewhat used to her doing that, getting into fixes and somehow finding her way out of them relatively unscathed. Sometimes she even expresses surprise that there had been a concern for her safety, as if she knew all along things would work out. Did I mention lately that the first lieutenant does not seem to understand the word fear, or even the very concept of it? Because of the amount of gear, vehicles, and personnel involved, it took us more than a few days to arrive at our destination here in West Virginia. Well, that, and we did have to make that mandatory stop at the FAC Armory in Dayton, Ohio, where we had to pick up more personnel, including Kai's Uncle Mel. I just wanted to get here and not have to make all the annoying necessary stops along the way. Part of me understood this was also a tactical maneuver in order to not alert our military that something major might be occurring. The last thing we needed was for them to get wind of a potential national security threat and go in guns blazing. Well, for one thing, I knew that would anger the first lieutenant beyond measure, since it is her hunt. And since she is turning out to be an elementalist, an unusual one at that, we can't risk her losing control, especially when CTI, Chicago Thematic Institute, still isn't sure what all she can do. And for another thing, we really do not understand yet or know fully what the planet might do if her human were to be damaged. That, and CTI thinks, no, scratch that, they are positive there could be others like Kai elsewhere on the planet. So, caution and taking our time, even if it admittedly worries me, is the best course of action. There is no doubt in my mind that the first lieutenant is out there, somewhere, in the vast national forest, gleefully making life most unpleasant for what she is hunting. The fact her entire platoon is missing, however, indicates perhaps she has bitten off a bit more than she can chew this time. Fortunately, my partner has left her lupine companion behind to lead the way in if necessary. They have a mind connection which CTI is unable to explain, other than it's like a biological GPS system, complete with them being able to see what the other sees. I have witnessed them doing this time after time, and even I cannot provide a satisfactory explanation for CTI. It is most annoying not being able to clearly explain a phenomenon and give it a concise designation. There is one more thing she's done on this hunt of hers. She left sensitive documents in plain sight of whoever walked in the door of her abandoned motel room. But Thunder, her lupine companion, indicated to me she deliberately did so, full well knowing he would not allow unauthorized personnel into the room. Kai did this even though it does go completely against the rules and protocols set forth by the FAC and completely against all the military training I have tried to instill in my aggravating, rule-breaking partner. But then again, the first lieutenant always completes her missions no matter what. And FAC never gets upset over her tactics. Well, except for that dam she accidentally blew up. So I try to cut her some slack whenever possible. Let the record show that I am determined to find First Lieutenant Kayla Day McMahon and the rest of her platoon, and that I have full confidence she is alive and in one piece. End entry. Confronting a thick pile of maps, files, and other documents scattered on the round table in his missing partner's motel room was not what Captain Michael Yamato had anticipated when arriving at her last known location. When he was given the news about First Lieutenant Kayla Day McMahon of the FAC failing to report in from a sanctioned monster hunt, well, he swore his heart had forgotten how to function briefly for a few seconds. Kai simply didn't vanish, unless something had gone very wrong. He hoped that was not the case. Surely he would have felt it if her life force had been snuffed out. Besides, the few times she had mysteriously vanished on missions in the past, Kai had always shown back up within a matter of a few days. So surely it also did not help his worrying that most of her platoon was also allegedly missing. 60 people just do not go missing, at least not without some sort of trace to show where they had been. It gave him a bit of consolation when Kai's hand-picked hunting partner and lifelong friend, Falcon, had materialized out of the national forest just a mere 6 hours after Michael's rescue team had arrived in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. He had shown up along with a ragtag band of bedraggled, half-dead citizens, plus 16 soldiers out of Kai's 60-strong platoon. No one was forthcoming with an explanation where everyone else on the team was located, other than stubbornly citing they had orders. What alarmed Michael the most was the fact that Kai's mutant lupine companion Thunder had calmly greeted him when he opened the unlocked motel room door. The first lieutenant absolutely, positively never left Thunder behind on any of her missions, and she never, ever left classified documents out in the open or unsecured. His concern mounted when Thunder locked eyes with him and showed him the last memory of Kai before she left the room. There, behind Kai, who was crouched down in front of Thunder, was the open motel room door with Falcon waiting for her. Thunder, listen very carefully. I'm leaving our mind link open so you can see what is going on. If something happens, if something happens, you will be able to lead the rescue team to where you are. I am depending on you. That alone shook Michael, which did not help his mounting displeasure over his partner's choice of lodging. His fastidious nature cringed at the very idea of a 2-story motel designed for tourists. Lazy Dog Motel and a campground, of all places in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, his partner could have picked. Then again, he ruefully admitted, Kai had not been worried about security. After all, the entire town had been completely evacuated due to fear of potentially more attacks by the Mothman. Correction, Mothmen. If Kai's much more journal was any indication of the trouble his partner was currently facing, it was more than one. And it wasn't as if the town was equipped to cater to high-end tourists. Time and history had not been kind to this part of West Virginia. At least it wasn't the dead of winter or rough camping, even if his partner seemed to enjoy those kind of challenges. Michael's thoughts had turned dark when Corporal Tilson handed him 61 FAC journals, as per standard procedure when greeting a rescue team. Very briefly, the captain had wondered if this indicated his partner knew she would die on this mission. Shaking that depressing thought away, Michael grimly turned his attention back to the piles of documents on the table. Reading over Kai's journal entries for this mission, Michael could see the task had her worried just by the way her handwriting switched in midstream, sometimes using code words only the two of them knew, then back again, which indicated a stream of consciousness style of writing. It seemed she was working things out as she wrote. After reading her last entry in the journal, Michael went back over a heavily underlined sentence. Keep lights dimmed. They are like the proverbial moth to the flame. It seemed a prudent idea to pass along the warning to the rest of the rescue team. As a matter of fact, it had Michael sufficiently worried enough that he had superstitiously dimmed the motel room lights even before passing the warning along to the rest of the rescue team, now fully occupying all floors of the motel. He had pulled what Commander Tillman claimed was the largest rescue team ever in response to the urgent phone call. If Kai was in trouble, it was going to be quite possibly an epic reason for such. She never did anything by halves, and Michael had admitted to their commander that this felt like another one of her spectacular blow-things-up missions, which she was famous for. So, yes, largest rescue team ever in response to the missing platoon call. Even though all FAC records did, quite graphically at times, indicate his too damn skinny, aggravatingly stubborn partner always found her way out of any situation. This time felt different for some reason. Maybe it was his odd anxiety for Kai increasing tenfold when he saw her remarks that it was a mated pair of Mothmen who had young about ready to hatch. She was going up against monster parents. Sighing yet again, Michael returned his attention to all the paperwork piled on the motel room table. The FAC prided itself on each militia member being thorough in their assignments, especially the Bloods, of which he and Kai were part of. Going through the paperwork in front of him, Michael had to admire how this time his impetuous partner had been a tad obsessive in her preparation for this particular monster hunt. She had apparently gone to great lengths in making sure no stone was unturned. The mission file was meticulously detailed, complete with newspaper clippings and printouts of the ancient legends of the Mothmen. Apparently, the creatures had been around far longer than the first alleged sighting back in the 1960s. Michael felt frustrated over the gross inefficiency of it all. For crying out loud, it was the year 2105, and no one had raised concern about the beasts, until now. A topographical map with heavy blue ink scrawled across the surface of it caught Michael's attention, and he pulled it forward to study it. Apparently, his partner had traced every tributary leading from the Ohio and Kanawha rivers. Why was Kai so interested in the waterways? Another topographical map pinpointed where every sighting or disappearance had occurred. Sunrise, sunset tables were noted for each event, moon phases with post-it notes marking times of each said event, and size of victims. Even more charts were uncovered showing readouts of weather conditions for each of the charted attacks. Good grief! Kai had even drawn up a rudimentary crime map showing where attacks had been the heaviest and had drawn arrows back to the forest with a question mark. Finding a clear hard sheet, which the FAC used for triangulations, Michael carefully placed it over the first topographical map and hissed in surprise. That's why she was interested in the waterways. Kai had actually pinpointed where exactly the Mothman's nest was located. A small tributary fed right into the place. Hastily scrawled notes indicated it was an old abandoned ordnance plant hidden far back in the National Forest, a leftover reminder of the American Socialist Revolution. That was 2,656 square miles of extremely rough country his partner had blithely gone hunting in. Of course. Thunder kept nosing the piles of documents and whining in an effort to get Michael's attention. Just as the captain was about to snap an order at the animal, a folder slid off to the floor, revealing a military-issue laptop. Since when has Kai owned a computer? But all Thunder did was wave his magnificent tail and utter a sharp, wolf-like bark. Okay, I'll turn it on, Michael laughed. But all amusement faded when the last visited site came into satellite view. What he saw was a still smoking crater with a few small fires burning here and there in the hole. Peeking over Michael's arm, Thunder gave what sounded like a happy warble. Well, Michael calmly replied, that's definitely our Kai style. Blow it all to hell times 3. We at least now know where she has been. The big question is her present location. Despite his concerns over his partner's safety, Michael couldn't help but also feel pride. After all, the first lieutenant had found the nest, marched in, and obliterated it. Rather efficiently at that, according to the satellite image. Although, when he got his hands on his too damn skinny, aggravatingly stubborn partner, there would be words on all the thermite she had requisitioned. He didn't even want to think about the other gear the gal had pulled for the mission. A war. Kai had gone in armed for war. Just as Michael reached up to tap his comm link in order to call for his team to scramble, after all, he now had the coordinates for the direction Kai and her platoon had taken. The sounds of shouting and running grabbed his attention. Did he just hear the word fire? Rising to his feet, Michael was reaching for his sidearm when the motel room door crashed open and his second-in-command rushed into the room. She's coming! Lieutenant Franklin hurriedly saluted. The rest of the first lieutenant's platoon, we assumed missing, just came pouring out of the forest, yelling for everyone to take defensive measures. Well, Franklin hastily added with a worried frown, about half of the remaining platoon. They were too busy running to tell us where the rest were. Did I hear the word fire being thrown about? Michael coolly asked, while clearing the table off and turning it on its side. Yes, sir. Master Sergeant Keith said she gave the scorched earth order. Shit. Yes, sir, I agree. Fire detail now in position, and snipers at the ready if she needs help. Hastily tapping the comm link, Michael snapped out a terse order for all the snipers. Hold your fire! Hold your fire! It's the first lieutenant's kill! Thank you! Yelled a familiar female voice back over the link. Now she speaks up. Lieutenant Franklin merely chuckled as he helped prepare the motel room for a potential siege. By the way, he remarked, I caught a glimpse of the first lieutenant through the eyes of the satellite uplink. I have never seen anyone run so fast before. It's a good thing, too, because those flying woe uglies are apparently really pissed off with her. The first lieutenant is half Osage, half Irish, Michael absently remarked as he checked his weapon, actually his favorite weapon of choice, which was a Colt 45 MK7 M2085X12 Special Series. She can run for days if need be, which I imagine is exactly what she has been doing. Oh, and we will definitely be questioning her about the missing part of her platoon. Something extraordinary must have occurred. Suddenly, an explosion from somewhere outside lit up the motel room, and Franklin grinned at the sight of the fire glow. There went the shed she pre-rigged. Your partner is quite thorough. Her notes did say something about luring one to the shed with something they would want. Wonder what it was. Well, any chance of a reply was cut short, as once again the motel room door burst open, and First Lieutenant Kayla Day McMahon dove through the opening, then rolled to a stop right next to the overturned table. Flames were seen as the woods behind the motel were consumed because of the thermite explosions. Michael briefly admired how Kai's team had followed her orders without question, and how effective the flames were in driving the monsters toward their final destination. However, any other thoughts were driven from his mind by the sight of the winged, angry, bleeding, glowing-eyed beast framed in the motel doorway. Before either of the two men could open fire, Kai rose to her knees, pulled out her bow from under the bureau behind her, notched an arrow, and let it fly with an accompanying loud battle cry. Wait, was that thermite tipped? The Mothman was knocked out of the door and over the balcony railing where it exploded. It was thermite. Michael sighed and shook his head at the thought of all the extra paperwork involved in blowing up a monster, along with setting part of the national forest ablaze. Falling over backward to the floor, Kai looked up at her partner with a near-delirious grin on her mud and heavily blood-streaked face. Hi, she quipped. You missed the party. Of course she would think it was a party. Now, that was the prologue for Book 2, BloodHunt Alpha and Omega. Go out and get the book. Read the rest. You'll see why she seems so deliriously happy about what she did.